Dude, you are so one thing I'm noticing about me and you a little bit is I'm not necessarily a coach. My podcast is doing pretty well. My business is doing great. And I think that I have a great mindset. I think that I'm doing great myself. But I'm noticing with the things you're saying is that I'm not as good as helping other people potentially because you coach, you mentor, and you are probably used to doing this. And I kind of sometimes I don't think I'm the best because I'm like, yeah, just don't worry about it, or just. But I'm not saying don't get back to the root of your problem, or I'm not as good at that. So mentorship, right? I'm always been fascinated by it because like Mark Cuban has this YouTube video that he's like, I don't need a mentor. Now again, that's Mark Cuban. He probably
Yeah, yeah.
maybe doesn't need a mentor.
And
But he
he's
talks
also an
about.
idiot. So,
You think he's an idiot?
oh, he's for sure an idiot.
What? Mark Cuban's my favorite guy. Why do you think he's an idiot?
I don't really know. But there are anomalies. So real quick, I'm kind of kidding. I just kind of seeing
Because
what
you love
you'd say about it.
mentorship. I mean, I will defend Mark Cuban's my
No.
boy.
That's not why. Ultimately, there's in golf, it's the same thing. People look at anomalies. They look at Steve Jobs and they say, well, Nicholas, why do you invest in your fashion? Steve Jobs didn't want decision fatigue, so he wore the same thing all the time.
Anomaly.
And so they take the anomalies, the guy who has 190 IQ, who invented things that had never existed before, the 0.000000001% of society, and they want to duplicate the thing that's unduplicatable rather than taking the things that are duplicatable and that are proven to work and use it. So Bubba Watson, he's a golfer.
Yep.
This guy has the gnarliest, craziest, funniest swing, and he hits everything the way that you're not supposed to do it. And then you got Tiger Woods, one of the most winning of all time, and all the other most winning of all time, and all the other people on tour that actually even matter at all. That if I ever said their name, they'd be the only people that you'd ever be able to find on Google. They all have a coach. And then there's the one guy, Bubba Watson, that everyone wants to be like because they want to get out of the feeling of having to have a coach, having to invest in themselves. They use it as a scapegoat to run away from their problems when they don't have the talent of the one guy out of all the golfers in the world that have ever made it to not have the coach. And we still don't know what it's like if he did have a coach. Like, we'll never know that. What kind of golfer he could have been. And with Mark Cuban, he may say things like, I don't need a mentor and stuff like that. I guarantee you that everything that he's ever learned about investing, business, sales, distribution, everything came from someone else. And let's look up the definition of mentor while you riff on that for a second. I'm going to pull this up.
Okay, pull it up. Yeah, because mentor is something that I've been thinking about possibly doing. And I've had these consultants. I've looked into CEO coaching. I had Patrick Bet-David on my podcast who talked about CEO coaching. And I mean, I've done over about 20 million in sales. I have 15 employees. It's got a big building. And I'm thinking, do I need a mentor? And I have these like unread emails about to respond back to these coaching classes and these CEO classes. And I'm looking for the reason to do it. So what's the definition of mentor?
Okay. So Mark Cuban, I apologize to school you when you got so much money and you own a sports team and all that stuff. Yet, because this isn't fair, right? Like respect has to be given where he's crushed it. Like he's crushed it with money. He's crushed it with influence. He has massive influence, massive money. He was on Shark Tank or is on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
he owns sports teams. I think he's dated hot women. Congrats. Now with that, mentor, an experienced and trusted advisor, number one. Number two, an experienced person in a company, college, or schools who trains and counsels new employees or students. Like, homie, if you want to say that you never learn anything from anyone, then cool. But for
would you consider books and podcasts that aren't directed directly towards you, would you consider that mentorship?
I believe that if you look at Think and Grow Rich, a lot of the concept of mentors inside of there were based on just beliefs, right? They're like, I'm going to act like this person's mentoring me, or I'm going to envision what this person would say to me.
Right.
Yet what's the downside of a mentor is probably my biggest thing. I don't really know what the downside would be. I know with me, for me personally, I would have nothing that I have today without my mentors. Right. I wasn't talented. And this is why I love what I've gone through. I was 60 pounds overweight. I barely graduated from high school. I didn't go to college. I got married at 20 with no job. But before that, I had no girlfriend for the 7 years, like I said. And for 3 years in business, I never turned a profit. I freaking sucked. I didn't get friend requests on Facebook. No one gave a crap about what I did. I ran my father's company for $19,000 and $21,000 a year, the 2 different years I was running it. I sucked. And so with all those failures got me to emotionally understand what people go through when they're going through those struggles. Like, oh man, like I understand. And now we reach millions of people every single year. We've done millions of dollars in sales online and offline, both platforms, millions of dollars of sales from events and over $500,000 just from our virtual events that we've done during COVID, et cetera. So again, there's lots of other people that have done a lot more. Comparison's kind of like a never ending game. Mark Cuban will always be more rich than you and I. And we're, you know, maybe the 5 millionth best entrepreneurs in the, at least right now. He's whooping our ass. That's what I'm saying, right?
Of course.
There's there's generally going to be someone else out there who's whooping our freaking ass. And even if they're not on paper, if you want to compete with Putin, who owns a percentage of every single business in all of Russia, who is by far the most richest person in the world, by far, but just doesn't get featured on Forbes, we're going to lose in that game at some point, right?
Lose. Or that guy in Saudi Arabia, the king or whatever.
Yeah. And again, is it right that Putin owns every business? Probably not, but like that's the rules that he's willing to go down that route to be able to get what he wants. And you and
he's going to be richer than us.
Yeah, he'll do whatever. So
going
back to this though, is that
go ahead.
I didn't have any of this, right? I had none of the, I had no skill, no talent, no ability. Even my Navy SEAL mentor that looked at all my speaking engagements, he thought, man, your wife better be the one who builds the business because you don't really, I don't see how you're going to do this. You don't have the skills, the talents, the abilities. I couldn't speak, couldn't market. I thought I was going to try to be the tech guy. I sucked at that too. And so for me, it was the people that went before me. And I look at it like this. Their ceiling is my floor. Whatever they built in their whole life, all the skill sets, everything they've been through, that's where I start. Because they're like, hey, I'm going to bring you up to the 160th floor. I've already built the foundation. I've already built the building. And where I'm at, my ceiling is going to be the floor that you start upon and you build upon, rather than building from scratch all by yourself again and learning all the same damn crap that they learned along the way. And I invested to be able to do that. And yeah, maybe that's why I believe in mentoring and coaching. But also there's lots of mentors and coaches out there that have never freaking, they're not a practitioner of what they preach. For me, you can just look at my bank account, not from the money, but the transactions of the $50,000, $70,000 per year for, let's say, Russell Brunson's mastermind, $50,000 a year to just be a part of and associated with what he's doing.
That's the only downside is the investment, potentially.
I mean, if you look at an investment as a downside, it's like
an investment. It's like,
well, if I invest in a property for real estate, it'd be nice to not ever have to borrow money, use other people's money or anything to do a real estate project.
Of course.
But you look at the numbers of the upside, and that's the difference between an investor mindset and a traditional employee mindset. So the employee mindset looks at it as a cost. Oh, what's this going to cost me? I don't use cost in my vocabulary at all. I don't use it in my marketing. I don't use it in any of my sentences. It's very hard for me to use the word cost, to the point where actual costs, I still call them investments. Because an investment is something that pays you money.
Yeah.
A cost is something that costs you something. No one wants anything that costs them anything. So they say, Nicholas, how much it costs to work with you? Like, I don't know. It doesn't. Like, the cost is if you don't work with me. That's the point. Because that's where you're missing out.
Exactly.
You can make an investment and it gives you a return. That's totally different than a cost. And that's the difference in the mindset of people that do invest in themselves, people that don't, people like yourself that invest in employees. It's not a cost for you.
No.
Hopefully that
I'm actually thinking the same thing. I use the word cost, but I was talking about this last week. I was on a live and I don't spend money on anything. Like someone asked, what's the dumbest thing you spend money on? And I couldn't think of anything because I have the same mindset as that. So I get what you're saying. I have one other question about mentors. Like specifically, like what things, I have a list here. Like, all right, so what of these things would they help me with the most? Industry knowledge, mindset, specific decision-making, or accountability? I'm sure it's all the above, but like, I'm interested in like the specific decision-making and the industry knowledge. Mindset, I think I'm okay on that. And like accountability could probably help me. But out of those 4 things, what do you think is like the most helpful for an entrepreneur?
I believe it's different for every type of personality. Some people they need that mentor to be like that association accountability or the the accountability that's not just like them holding you accountable, but the social accountability of, man, I'm playing big with this guy and I don't want to like let him down. And I'm checking in with this guy. So that accountability may help them. For me, it was all around proximity because I just looked at everything else I had done. So when you're talking about, it's more about the specific decisions that they make all throughout life and the way that they live life and attack it every single day. That was my biggest benefit that I got. Outside of that, it would be the specific questions called just-in-time learning. When I'd run into a problem, whether it be my health mentors or my business mentors, I could ask a question about that specific problem and get an answer right then.
Because you can't get that from a book or a podcast.
I could. I just have to search for it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your time worth? You're going to go search for 10 hours on YouTube trying to figure out a specific problem, or are you just going to ask a question and get an answer from someone who's already done it? Like I just save myself 10 hours. What's 10 hours worth? What's the mentor cost? Total difference. But think about this. I've tried to be pro in a lot of different things. So I want to be a pro motocross racer. I want to be pro coffee maker. I want to be the best coffee maker in the world at one point. I want to be a pro golfer. I have an issue with thinking that I can like be the next Tiger Woods, even though I've never really golfed before. So inside of that, one of the biggest things that I noticed is there's people that golf all the time and never get better. That's so weird. They get better and then they just stump in their growth. And I realized that the biggest thing is they all golf with like the same people all the time, shooting in the 80s. Their expectation isn't really there. They don't think they get much better. They stay the same for 20 years. Then there's these other people that just continue to progress. And outside of our genetics, which can't really change, I was like, well, I'm just going to golf with pro golfers. So I literally started golfing, shooting in the hundreds, like 120, 130, terrible. And I just started playing with pro golfers. I had pro golfer instructor that would instruct me all the time. I play with pro golfers. So I'd only see great shots. I'd only see great strategy. I only learned good habits beforehand, similar to what you were talking about with speaking. People think if you just do it, you'll get better. Or you practice bad habits, and then you have to reverse your bad habits rather than learning good habits and then practicing. So I followed these guys who are pro, and I learned from the pros. I started expecting myself to shoot in the 70s. I started watching people that did it all the time. Oh, dude, my best games, I was 2 under in 9 holes was my best 9 holes, and 1 over in 18 was my best 18 holes.
That's really good.
I was 8 strokes out of qualifying for the Farmers Insurance Open qualifier that was like in San Diego. So 8 strokes is a lot. I got my ass beat. Total,
still,
like,
man, that's
not
incredible.
Even
My best day ever was like a 97 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yet that was in a 1.5-year period.
Wow.
From
so that
140
shows the power of being around
70s.
That positive energy and those
and
good
so
habits.
Just transfer it to business. Like all of a sudden I realized that, all right, if I can get around these people, I could see their habits, the way that they approach things, the way that they do life, right? Outside of just business. Like one of my mentors taught me how to be a better father, was a business mentor, but it rubbed off on me. If I would have never met him, if I would have never studied him, if I didn't have exclusivity and access, right? Like not a ton of people around him. I had this like a very small group plus access, the ability to see him closely behind the doors, not just on stage, not just the best stuff that's edited a million times inside the book, but actually see who he was as a human being. This dude always promised to put his kids to bed at night, even if it was on FaceTime. But one night he's across the country and he says, honey, I'm going to wake up with you. I'm going to make you pancakes. I'm flying home. I'll be home in just like a couple hours tonight. We'll wake up in the morning. We'll have pancakes. Flight gets canceled. The dude literally tries to rent a car. His license expires. He hitchhikes. He even gets stuck in jail for a minute for something, like just trying to get home, makes it there right before sunrise happens. And he gets home just to have breakfast with his daughters. And I made a commitment in that moment as like, I need to have boundaries and I need to have certain like do's and don'ts. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. And this is what I'm going to promise to them. And I just saw this man of integrity. And yeah, is that a business thing? No, but that's a mentorship thing. Right. I learned from that. And still to this day, I think about it every single day when I'm hanging out with my son. Wow. So for me, it was all around being around the best. Look at any sport. It's just a more common thing, right, to look at. Motocross, I told you, is my favorite sport. All of them used to train in secret. They all had mentors, they all had coaches, but they all trained alone. Recently, 3 riders that were all competing against each other, they decided that they would hire the same mentor and they would all train together all year round, giving away all their secrets, everything. They've won every championship and been in the top. Now everyone's doing it because they realized that not only did they need the mentor, they needed also the tribe around them that were pushing each other to become better, that made them accelerate to become their best. So not only was it mentors, it was also just the environment outside of the mentorship. Who am I around? Dude, this has been the thing that I've built my life upon. And this is why I like autobiographies or biographies or all these different, I barely graduated high school. So whatever the heck each one of those are, I like both of them. And it's because I get to see, how did they do life? How did they prioritize? How did they make decisions? When I look at Kobe Bryant's documentary, I look at, man, this guy's crazy. When I look at the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan,
love it.
I don't learn how to play basketball from the documentary. That's not why I watch it. I watch it to figure out how he attacked the day, how he made up things and situations in his mind to motivate him. And how can I each day take those things and apply them into my life? I view that as mentorship. And the biggest thing that I've gotten from it is that association that rubs off. The quote that sums it all up that I teach is, some things are better caught than taught. I break it down inside the book. There's certain things that you come to teachers for to learn. But most things that you actually get are actually caught from association.
Wow. That's powerful.
My golf instructor dipped chewing tobacco. I picked up spitting just from being around him, even though I didn't dip. I still spit when I golf to this day because I picked up something that he did not teach me.
You caught it.
Some things are better caught than taught.
That's powerful. That's really powerful, man. Honestly, like, you made a good point about before with finding the problem, finding the root of it. Now about the mentorship, I'm gonna maybe throw up some money and get into it, because I like that caught not taught, and I get what you're saying. And out of all the specific things I mentioned, I'm looking for something like perfect. No, it just be around these great people. It blends.
Yeah, I look at the person. They have to have the results, but I look at the person. Are they someone I would switch places with, or if I did catch things from them, what I want them? So for me, I wouldn't go to a cocaine stripper ass sniffing mentor just because, not that I couldn't learn something. Believe me, I know I could. But if I could choose, I just don't want to. That's not what I want to catch. Right. Because I've been there. I hired those. So
you go around someone you respect and you want to be like, and you admire, and you want to be like.
Because you're gonna catch it.
You're gonna catch it, like you did with the dip with golfing.
I didn't ever go to clubs, and my first mentor that I hired always is at clubs. I started just going with them to be around them, and then I got a drink here, a drink there, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is what everyone does, and I'm all of a sudden just like transforming in the same thing. That's why I created my company, is I thought, well, what if we had men that wanted to be healthy and have a great family and make a lot of money, and we all own businesses, and that was what we cared about. Now we've lost 20,000 plus pounds together as a community.
It's incredible.
Not from just health programs.
So you're creating,
because this is just what we do.
With $1 billion body, right? That's what it's called.
$1 billion brotherhood, yeah.
$1 billion brotherhood. You're creating the environment where people can go there and catch the right things. And if they're attracted to that
100%.
type of world, that's perfect, man. I respect the hell out of that.